Oh my god. Oh, I just, I just had a fucking nightmare. Is there new Doctor Who? Fuck you. I think there's this new Doctor Who that's out. Does series 13 air? I've been sleeping. I've been asleep since New Year 2021. Wait, was that when Revolution came out? Hello. Welcome. This is not an out of season Halloween costume. Actually, this is just what I wear normally. A new episode of this show, science fiction show Doctor Who came out finally. After when did Revolution air? I want to say it wasn't 2020. That just sounds weird. 10 months. It's been 10 months since the last episode of Doctor Who aired. In 10 months, a lot of things can happen. And a lot of things did happen, actually. So first thing, this, we know, it's the last year for Jodie Whittaker and the Chibnall guy, the Chris guy. He's gone too after this year. A lot of people don't like Chris Chibnall. A lot of people kind of disagree with how he's been running the show. Me personally, I think the dude can't write sci-fi for shit. Okay, I'm gonna go out and say that. I think he can't write sci-fi. He's good at drama and character stuff. It's not actually, because he sucks at writing characters in Doctor Who. But the things he's done for the show are actually a little commendable. There's the budget now. Okay. And that introduction at the beginning, instead of the cold open, that baity way to get people hooked in. I like it. I like putting the intro at the beginning. I like that it's Pertwee's intro. Basically, Pertwee's my favorite Doctor. I don't know if you could tell, actually. But Pertwee's my favorite. Oh shit, hold on. I came undone. Alright, we're gonna have to do without that for now. So Chris Chibnall's era has been pretty divisive. I think it's fair to say. It's probably the most divisive Doctor Who's been in a little while. I personally do not like the 13th Doctor. Okay, I don't think I ever will. I don't think Series 13 is going to save that. I love the idea of casting a woman as the Doctor. I think it's great. Anyone who's talented enough to play the Doctor should play the Doctor. And I think Jodie Whittaker is talented enough to play the Doctor. But oddly, might not have been the best choice. Certainly not my first choice for actress. She kind of reminds me of Peter Davison. Safe choice. White, blonde, safe choice. I also didn't like Peter Davison. Maybe their costumes kind of look the same too. Maybe it was. So, new episode came out. Series 11, Series 12, they sucked bad, except for like Rosa and Nikola Tesla, except for the historicals. The historical episodes, for some reason, throughout the past 2 seasons, they've been the best ones. And usually New Who sucks at doing historicals, so I'm glad it's kind of getting back on track with those. I would have actually liked it if Nikola Tesla was a companion. That would be cool. Okay? Could have happened. I would have liked it if Captain Jack stuck around after Rev. So, this Series 13, they're calling it Doctor Who Flux. I think that's stupid, and I'm going to keep calling it Series 13. Anyway, some history behind this show, if I haven't already given you enough. Series 13, originally planned to have 10 episodes, I think. That's the number I got in my head. It might have been 8 episodes, so don't quote me on that. But due to COVID that funny thing that demonetized the video. I don't gotta worry about that right now. I'm not getting money from these. Due to COVID, they had to cut down the episode length to 6. And Series 13 is supposed to be like one big story. So, if you cut out 4 parts of the story, surely that's gonna leave some issues there. That'd be like cutting out an entire story from Trial of a Time Lord. Actually, I would have liked it if they did that and made that shorter. Yeah, we're a few episodes short, but even though we're 4 episodes short, or 2, depending on who you ask, this episode's a clusterfuck. Halloween Apocalypse is a clusterfuck of an episode. Let's just get right into it. The first scene is with Yaz and the doctor hanging over a big acid pool, and they're being intimidated by this dog. We don't know who's a dog man right now, but he's this stupid villain named Carvanista. And he's getting tired of the doctor tracking him. We don't know who he is, why the doctor wants to track him, why he wants to kill the doctor. We really don't know any of that. He's got them in this fucking James Bond trap, dangling from their feetsies. And he's got, like, killer buzzsaw droids, like, orbiting around him. And he just, like, fucks off. He just leaves. He does that thing where the villain doesn't watch the hero die. So, of course, they escape. And the buzzsaw kill droids, which should have just killed them in the first place, aren't able to aim since they're only 5 feet away. I don't know how that happens. It's spectacle over substance, this scene. So you got the Doctor and Yaz escaping in this dramatic way from a trap. That's just cool. It's a cool concept. But the trap makes no sense. The setup for the scene does not make sense. It's just bad writing at this point. Because if I don't know, if I had my arch enemy or whatever trapped in front of, I would have actually, you know what, I would just kill them. I don't know why Carvanista wanted to trap these two, and why I mean, you could make the argument that he was away while they got trapped, but he clearly had the ability to kill them because his buzzsaw droids were there. So, why did he not do that? This guy is he like the Joker? Makes a reference to Nitro 9. Fuck that. Cool. Nitro 9 gets a name drop in the new Jodie Whittaker episode. That's Sylvester McCoy era thing. I like Sylvester McCoy. I like his era. This reference added nothing to my life. I knew who deals with fan service is like member berries from South Park. Hey, you remember Nitro 9? You remember when the Doctor was Scottish? Remember, like, hey, remember all these things, and there's no substance at all. The references that they're making. Anyway, 13 and Yaz escape. 13's still fucking annoying. She's the most annoying Doctor, and I hate that she is. I hate that Chris Chibnall decided to make the woman Doctor the most annoying Doctor. Before this, it was David Tennant. David Tennant was the most annoying Doctor before Jodie Whittaker. 13 has now taken the cake. She says, alley-oop, I have written down here. I looked it up to make sure, because I'm a bit of a boomer. I made sure that alley-oop was a pop culture thing. And that's is stupid. Doctor shouldn't be saying stuff like that. It just sounds so un-Doctor. This is someone we should be impressed by. Someone that we should look up to. This is not someone we should treat as just a buddy. You're just hanging out with your friends, and they say some goofy, wacky thing. The Doctor should always be a step above the rest of the cast and the audience. That's what New Who fails at trying to convey a lot of the time, that the Doctor is an alien. New Who treats him as a human, especially in the Russell T Davies era. Oh, I'm not excited for him to come back, let me tell you. So, I mean, this just doesn't make sense. And it never will make sense to me. A lot of people like it, I guess. RTD era had the highest viewing figures. Goes to show that maybe I'm just a little stupid. One thing I liked about the scene was the Doctor had voice-activated handcuffs. I like that. That's something the Doctor would do. They would set that up. I think, point, Chris Chibnall. One point for Chris Chibnall. He did that good. So, there's this scene right after. It takes place in 1820. And I'm not even going to talk about the content of the scene because it has no bearing on the plot of this episode. There was no reason this scene should be in this episode. And the fact that it is in this episode makes this episode more confusing. Because this episode is constantly, as you'll see throughout the course of this video, constantly setting up plot points for future episodes of the season without taking into consideration that this episode is suffering because of it. And I know there's people going to be like, well, it's the first episode. It's like the first act of a movie. You don't judge a movie based on its first act. Yeah, but you can judge a TV season based on its first episode. Because there's a difference between this and a movie. Even though it is structured as one story, each week to week should be able to tell an individual plot compelling enough to keep you coming back. And the fact that this episode does not deliver on that, like maybe at the end of Series 13, I'll sit down and I'll watch all 6 of these episodes together and I'll be like, hey, okay, all right, that was good. That was good. Maybe that'll happen. But that doesn't excuse the fact that this episode by itself is bad. Oh, this big B word. This episode feels like The Rise of Skywalker. And I mean that by the fact that it's like a bunch of scenes strung together that have no like bearing on each other. There's no cohesion between them. Sometimes you'll revisit things that you saw 3 scenes ago and then you'll keep going. But like there's no just through line for this episode. It's like a bunch of cold opens put together and tacked onto like a 30-minute, 25-minute plot. It's a half-baked episode. It's not done. So we get introduced to this new character called Dan, and a scene that tells us pretty much everything we know about him. He's someone who loves helping people, and he loves the history of his hometown, Liverpool. He loves helping out in areas that he's not welcomed, because we'll learn he was giving these people a tour. His museum lady comes up and she says, you can't do that, you don't work here. Her name's Diane. They're friends or something. So we learned that Dan likes presenting to people, and he likes helping people, even in places that he's not necessarily obligated to help them. Anyway, Diane, one cool thing I wanted to mention about Diane is that she's an amputee. And I mention this because I am happy that the episode does not mention this. It does not draw attention to the fact that she's abnormal, because she isn't, and that's cool. I like that Diane is treated as just a normal character, and it doesn't matter whether or not she has her arm, it's just, she's just some person that got involved in the plot. And that is commendable. I like it when people with like certain defects or something like that, abnormalities, are just introduced, and it's like, it's cool, they're just there. They're just another character. It kind of reminds me of the mute woman from Under the Lake Before the Flood. She was there. There was no real need for her to be mute. Like any scene that required her to be mute could have easily been written another way and the episode would be completely fine. But the fact that she was mute, it was just cool. It was like, you don't see mute people in TV often. And hey, they got some representation here. So I like that Diane is just some random woman who happens to be an amputee, who's kind of chill with Dan. It was cool. That's cool. Okay, so then something happens a little, like 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes into the episode. Doctor gets this psychic connection to this character we've never met or seen before. His name is Swarm. When the trailer for Series 13 came out, and we saw this guy, and he was like, "Ooh, Doctor, you and I have a history together." I was like, "Oh, that is Sacha Dhawan in makeup." I thought for sure that that is just a decayed master. That's Sacha Dhawan as a decayed master after the events of Series 12. I was fucking wrong. It's some character that we don't care about, and we shouldn't care about, actually. It's just some dude that apparently was imprisoned from the dawn of time. So these two Time Lady guards go up, or Gallifreyans, or maybe not even that. Maybe they're just human-looking aliens. I think they're supposed to be Gallifreyans because they got the same weapons that the Ruth Doctor had, or whatever. They're members of the Division, which got set up in the last season. The Division is basically the Celestial Intervention Agency, with a different name. Why the fuck did we have to make something new for that? Why couldn't the Division just have been the Celestial Intervention Agency? Don't know, don't care. Don't know, don't care. Chris Chibnall, he wanted to name it something his own. He wanted it to be his own, I guess, without going into the ramifications of what exactly that means. It's like Chris Chibnall's era reminds me of like that little kid at the toy box when it's finally his turn to make this story, and he just like completely disregards everyone else's playtime work. That's who Chris Chibnall is. I don't know if that made any sense. He breaks out of his cage for no reason. It just happens. It's never explained how or why the containment chamber malfunctioned specifically here. In fact, I doubt that we'll ever get an explanation as to how he escaped or why he escaped. Ever. I don't think it's going to come up again. It just happened. It's just an event that happened. Whatever. He kills the two guards, and then he says, like, trick or treat to the Doctor, because they got this connection. And then they land, 13 and Yaz land in Liverpool on Halloween, and Yaz says, "Doctor, trick or treat," and 13th Doctor gives, like, the worst, like, you know, like, turn moment that I've ever fucking seen in anything to the words as innocuous as trick or treat. That shit was hilarious. I feel like Jodie Whittaker's just like Daisy Ridley at this point. Like, she doesn't give a shit anymore. She's just having fun with the role. And I can accept that. I can accept that. Another Last Skywalker comparison there. See Dan, he works at a soup kitchen, and his co-worker's like, "Do you want to take some soup home for you?" And Dan's like, "No, I'm good." So this again shows that he's a selfless man, especially when we get back to his house and realize that he doesn't have much to eat and he should probably just take the soup. But I'm going to take I want to mention right now that Dan is written well. I don't think he's acted too well. I know that the guy who acted him is a comedic actor, but oh my god, Dan is so one note. He's always like this. He's like, he's got the same tone of voice the entire time. He's always just a little upbeat, and he's always got like his front teeth, his top row of teeth showing. He's like the same throughout the entire episode. Like, he never reacts differently to anything. I mean, I suppose like there's moments where it's toned down, like in Carvanista's ship or whatever. But for the most part, it's the same thing the whole way through. Anyway, Carvanista busts into his house with a laser axe. And Dan is just like, yeah, it's just a Halloween guy. And he goes on to make jokes at Carvanista's expense. Now, at this point in the plot, Carvanista, revealed as a dog person, by the way, Carvanista is supposed to be a villain. Why does Chris Chibnall always feel like writing villains, writing comedy into scenes regarding villains to make them less threatening? He did this with Zimshaw from episode 1 of Jodie Whittaker's era, to name an example, where he just writes comedy at the expense of character. And I don't like that. I don't think that should ever be done. You should just because, hey, this gag would be funny here, doesn't mean you should put it in, even if it is funny. Because the show is not a comedy. This show is a science fiction serialized drama. I mean, it's supposed to be drama. It's sort of all over the place. I've always described Doctor Who as like a space detective fiction. Kind of like how Mandalorian is like a space western. Doctor Who for me is like a space detective fiction, if that makes any sense. Maybe I'll make a video on that. Leave a comment below if you want that video. I don't think that you should just write comedic scenes for the sake of comedic scenes. It's like that one person who like you always hang out with sometimes. Maybe he's a coworker. He's not a real friend. They're just like there sometimes, and everything they say is a fucking joke to the point where you never know if you can take them seriously. They're always doing a bit. It's like, okay, you're funny sometimes, dude, but can you talk to me? Can you stop fucking around for 1 second? Can we have a conversation here? That's what this sort of thing reminds me of. Doctor makes another stupid pop culture reference, something about a Barcelona match. I don't know, it's just another thing where it's like, it's kind of like this in Davison's era as well, where Doctor just played cricket for no fucking reason. It's like, I don't think the Doctor should really be well-versed in pop culture, specifically pop culture of the 20th and 21st century, because they are timeless. They should be well acquainted with history and maybe historical aspects, but I don't think that the Doctor should really be making references to like modern things, if that makes sense. It would be weird if in a historical episode Doctor went back to the times and she started talking like a Shakespeare character. Started saying like, oh, where art thou, Romeo, whatever. If the Doctor started doing that, it'd be fucking stupid, right? I'm not the only one who think that it would be stupid if the Doctor just talked like that for no reason. Just because they're in a historical setting. Just because the Doctor is in a modern setting, a postmodern setting, they shouldn't be talking like a postmodern character. The Doctor is someone who is timeless. Timeless child, if you... The Doctor should not be talking like one of the mates, you know? It may be fun to pretend that the Doctor could be your best friend, but the Doctor doesn't have time for you. He's, if you're lucky, he's gonna stranglehold you, maybe. They go to Dan's house where Carvanista has abducted Dan. Yaz and 13 go to the house, and there's a computer there that allows the Doctor to assess the fleet of the Lupari, which is Carvanista's people. And she figures out that this whole fleet's coming this way before they both realize the computer's a fucking bomb. The laptop is a bomb. Why the fuck is the laptop a bomb? Why did Carvanista not just put a bomb in the house? Carvanista put a laptop that convincingly looks like a human laptop in the house so that the Doctor could go on the laptop, get all the information she needs from it, and then the laptop starts flashing a red fucking screen whenever it's about to blow up or whatever, shrink the house, same fucking thing. Why? Who in the... How about this? The people who you think are on your tail walk into this location you've been. They're there for like 5 minutes and then a bomb goes off without their knowledge. That would be a better alternative. Now, imagine walk down this other road with me, if you will. These people come into this place you've been, but you, clever enough, have left a phone for them. And they pick up that phone, and they take screenshots of all your nudes, and they download it to Google Drive, and then the phone starts flashing a red screen because it's about to blow up, giving those two people that now have your nudes ample enough opportunity to escape the location and leave the phone behind to be blown up. That's Carvanista got caught with your pants down, man. I want to know why Carvanista even sets this trap if he thinks the doctor and Yaz should be dead, if he's so certain that they should be dead. Maybe he even recognized that his death trap was stupid. Actually, coming on to this, so the Carvanista says earlier this ominous line about he's going to Earth and for the last moments of the Earth or whatever. We learn later that Carvanista's going to Earth to protect it, basically, with the rest of the Lupari. So why does this line earlier in the episode have to indicate so much that he's a villain? I'll tell you why. It's for plot contrivance. 13 and Yaz have to think Carvanista's a villain in order for the plot to move along, no matter how stupid it is that we had to set things up in a certain way for them to be able to believe that. That's just bad writing, 101. There's the scene in the Arctic that has no relation to anything, where there's these two people, two division agents, and they ignore a distress call like secret agents should. Why are these people on Earth, first of all? Why is Earth so special? I want to know that. Why does everything in the fucking universe revolve around Earth? Put these people on, like, I don't know, put them on another planet. That would have been easy. If they were not on Earth, because there's a lot of other planets in the universe, in case you didn't know. Why are these two people just happen to be hiding out on Earth, like the last two division agents were that we saw, which, for those of you who don't know, would be the Ruth doctor and her fake husband. Why does everything have to revolve around Earth? I hate it. It's stupid. It makes my brain a little smaller. Also, these people have no reason for being in the plot. They are on two scenes, approximately 2 scenes, dos. They die in the second scene, so we know for a fact they won't come back. They're in 2 scenes and they die, and the reason they die in the second scene is because Swarm comes, presumably Swarm, was what their alarm clock was warning them about before they pressed the snooze button. Swarm comes, and he turns the girl into his sister after killing the guy. Okay, why do we need this scene for that to happen? Why do we need these 2 characters for that to happen? Couldn't Swarm have just done that to one of the guards that was sent to his... Couldn't he have done that to that one blonde girl guard? Why didn't he do it then? And I mean, maybe there's a logistical reason. Maybe he had to build up enough power or whatever. But, like, you don't have to include that in the plot. You can just say he could do it. You know, having him not do it then just adds more bullshit to the plot later, because it's being fluffed up by more things. And this plot has a lot of fluff. This is a chubby plot, okay? So it adds more unnecessary details to the plot, and it keeps the focus away from what the focus of the episode should be. So, I will admit that the scene between Carvanista and Dan in the spaceship is a little interesting. You see Carvanista's disgust with having to protect a man he feels that is so meaningless. And I think this helps to build Carvanista as a villain. But Carvanista's not a villain, and so he shouldn't be built as a villain, as we'll figure out later in the episode. So even though this scene in and of itself is nice, the ramifications it has later is not nice. I'm going to take this moment to compliment whoever did the CGI or the makeup for Carvanista. Good job. It was good. It looked like Chewbacca. Yaz and 13 meet this random woman in the street that they're going to meet in their future, but her past. It's a typical time trick. Doctor Who does this all the time. This is another example of this episode setting up something in the future at the expense of its own quality. Moments like this really bog down the episode. Also, her name is Claire, and she says something like she's taking the long way home, which is a direct reference to the 11th Doctor. And her name, Claire, feels like a direct reference to Clara. I think this might be a Clara thing. Maybe that's just my phobia, my Clara phobia speaking. Oh my god. Everything that could remotely be connected to Clara, like, instantly sends me into shock. I get, like, a full-body seizure whenever Clara is mentioned. Like, I'm on full alert mode right now. If this ends up being a Clara thing, I'm just saying right now, I told you so. So anyway, she just says, hey, I know you guys are gonna know me. And she walks off. Who was she? Don't know, don't care, and neither do the Doctor or Yaz, because they just get in the fucking TARDIS like nothing happened. Yaz says that the Doctor's hiding something to her face, which is, of course, the best way for a character to convey to the audience that another character is hiding something. The Doctor kind of guilts Yaz into ignoring it, because she mentions how she's, like, treated her so nicely since Ryan and Graham left. I wouldn't have a problem with 13 manipulating her companions like previous Doctors did. You know, Sylvester McCoy rings a bell. You know, he did that. But this has not been a part of her characterization until now. It would be like Peter Davison suddenly turning to Tegan and saying, you know what? You don't need to go to Heathrow. You're better with me and you should stay with me. Like, that would be so out of left field for the 5th Doctor to say that. Like, the entire arc of season 19 is the 5th Doctor getting Tegan to Heathrow. It would just be against his character for him to say something like that. And I feel like it's against 13's character to start manipulating Yaz in this way. Anyway, a weeping angel shows up and snatches Claire. I guess that's something we'll look forward to in a future episode. Weeping angels are back. Do you remember the Weeping Angels? So it then cuts to this guy named Vinder in this observation outpost called Rose. I really hope that's not a reference to their character Rose. I really hope that Rose Tyler doesn't show up in Series 13. That would actually be my worst nightmare. Vinder's characterization, to give credit to the episode, is as solid as Dan's. He is bored of his job and the isolation, but he's impressed by the beauty of the universe, even after all this time he's spent alone, hating his job. And we learn this just by the things... He doesn't directly say this. He doesn't turn to the camera and say, I hate my job, but I admire beautiful things like the universe. And even though my job is looking at the universe and reporting every day that nothing's changed, I still like to look at the universe. But I hate my job, and I hate being here. But I can appreciate the beauty of the universe. He doesn't turn to the camera and say that. He opens up this voice log and gives his report, and through what he says in this report, we can ascertain the same amount of information as we would have gained if he did just turn to the camera and say that, but in a better way. You know, we get the sense that even though this is mundane for him, he's still excited to see the universe. And the best part of the scene is he signs off by telling whoever he's reporting to go to hell, like always. Which is, it shows that he's got a little bit of a, not only like a rebellious streak, but also like a little candid attitude. He's kind of maybe a little funny, maybe a funny guy, maybe likes to joke around, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah, I think it's nice. I like Vinder, and I hope that he isn't forgotten after this episode. Anyway, Vinder and his station get attacked by some universal disaster coming on the planets. We learn later there's something called the Flux, which is, hey, by the way, Doctor Who Flux. This series is like called that or something. And apparently everyone knows about this thing except for the Doctor. The Sontarans know about it. The Lupari fucking know about it. The stupid-ass Lupari, which we're going to get to. I actually kind of like the Lupari, by the way. Anyway, a lot of people know about the Flux, but for some reason the Doctor has no fucking idea about it. And I don't know, that just... It's like a classic New Who story arc. The Doctor doesn't know about this thing until the thing starts happening. It's like, New Who story arcs are always about, like, prophecies or some shit. They're all plot-driven. Character arcs in a show like Doctor Who that deals with time travel should be character-driven. You know, series arcs should be character-driven, not plot-driven, because if it was plot-driven, it wouldn't make any sense, because they're hopping around all through time. Why hasn't the plot happened yet? You know, it's like, we get a reference to everyone's favorite episode, Orphan 55, because the Hopper virus shows up. And also there's a pointless reference to the whole synchronized watches tropes in heist movies. Thank you, Doctor Who. So, when Carvanista finally meets up with the Doctor, he's just about as annoyed about seeing her as I am at this point. She uses her magic wand to disable his ship. I really hate the Sonic and I think this should be destroyed, but that's a topic for a later video. And we learn that the Doctor is tracking Carvanista because he is a X-Division agent. So Carvanista is not a villain, and I feel like he doesn't, if the Doctor's just tracking him because she knows he's a Division agent and there's no prior history to that, why has he taken villainous actions to prevent the Doctor from just meeting up with him? What, like, is this character supposed to be bad? Is he a bad guy? Is he like a criminal? Well, no, that's obviously not the case, because we learn later on that he's got a battalion that he's assigned to in the Lupari people. So he's not a criminal. He's not a bad guy. Why has he tried, like, all these James Bondy ways to stop the Doctor from getting his nudes? I mean, to stop the Doctor from confronting him and just asking him about something. He doesn't even know that she's tracking him because he's a Division agent. He has no reason to suspect the Doctor, of all people, of villainous intent. So why is he being so defensive? Why is he just jumping straight to, oh, let's kill the Doctor, let's kill this random person that's tracking me? I don't know. I don't know. Yaz... So Yaz busts Dan out of his cage and gives the funniest, like, I'm here to rescue you speech that I've ever seen.
Who the hell are you anyway?
I'm Yaz. Yasmin Khan. Formerly PC Yasmin Khan of Hallam Shipley's. Very human. Very much not with the dog fella.
Was made by Doctor Who Poop. Check them out. They make great content. And you should go and support them. Subscribe to them. Within the Lupari are species bonded to humanity because they're dogs. They're humanity's best friend, and the species bonded. So whenever humanity is in the utmost of trouble, the Lupari go to humanity and protect them. This makes no sense, but I fucking love it. It's like Douglas Adams sci-fi, you know? It's the sort of thing you could expect from, like, the Douglas Adams, Graham Williams era of the show. You know, the season 16, season 17 sort of City of Death era, that whole thing. It's like you could expect that sort of stuff, you know. This would feel right at home in that era. So I like it, even though it doesn't make sense. I like that the show doesn't really acknowledge that it doesn't make sense either. Usually this is something that I nitpick the hell out of, but, like, as Doctor Who, maybe don't take things like this as seriously, because this is not really a big part of the plot. It's just something that it's something. It's just a thing, and it's a fun little thing that happens. It doesn't take away from anything, most importantly. It adds, if anything. It adds to the world, you know, it adds to the lore. So that's cool. But in this scene where, like, Jodie Whittaker's talking to Carvanista, it kind of feels like they're in entirely different rooms. It kind of feels like Jodie Whittaker is not delivering her lines to the Carvanista actor. It just feels like she's been given a script and she's saying these lines to some entity in the air. She, like, the best example of this is when it does this, like, you know, typical Chris Chibnall conversation. It's cut to face, say the thing. Cut to other face, say the thing. It's doing this back and forth shot, reverse shot thing. So it does a shot on Carvanista, and he warns, he says, like, something, oh, that signal back there, we're on species recall because of the flux. And he says it, like, very casually, and then it reverse shots to Jodie Whittaker, and she's like, what's the flux? It's such a bonkers reaction. It's completely out of nowhere. And like I said, I just don't think she cares enough at this point. I've been getting this feeling from Jodie that she doesn't really care anymore, which I honestly respect, because if I was in her position, I would not give two shits about this show anymore. I would not care about Doctor Who anymore if I was the 13th Doctor for 3 seasons. Like, that's enough to break someone, I think. It's kind of like being Rey for 3 movies. That kind of, Daisy Ridley did not like that in the end. She was excited about it at the beginning, and by the end, she did not want to be in that movie. I guarantee. So Carvanista explains this whole Flux thing, and Vinder ejects himself from the observation outpost. And even though I like Vinder, the scenes with him kind of do tack on to this episode in a weird way. Like, they're not entirely unwelcome because they actually have something to do with the main fucking plot, but they do just add more stuff, you know, and that builds up after a while. Also, Carvanista just so happens to be the one Lupari that hit a time distortion and showed up to Earth first, which is very convenient that the one Lupari, which is central to the plot, just happened to be the one to get there before all the other Lupari. We finally get to see the Sontarans again. They're revealed again in this episode, and they finally have that classic Who design back. This is the most impressive they've looked since their conception. I think this is actually the most impressive Sontaran design we've ever seen. Still, there's problems with their appearance, mainly because Stragar, who's played by the same person who played Strax, Stragar's reporting into his commander or whatever. He's on a hologram, and he's a little deformed because of battle or whatever. And his commander, instead of being like, okay, report to me, psychic analysis Kragar or whatever he said, he's, instead of being like, oh, just give me the report, give me, what have you learned about the Crux? He takes the time to insult Kragar about his appearance, I think 3 times. And it's not funny. The bit just drags on. And again, it's comedy at the expense of characterization. Similar to that moment that Dan had with Carvanista. It's unfunny. It adds nothing, and if anything, it takes away from the threat that the Sontarans should pose. That's my 2 cents on it. So, the TARDIS crew go to the edge of the universe to see the Flux in action. Swarm seems to have something to do with it. Otherwise, it would be rather coincidental if Swarm just broke out at the same time the Flux started. Then again, this episode is littered with coincidence, so maybe they're not connected at all. Swarm also appears to be a great big bad villain that the Doctor fought in a past life. We know, we figured out about those last season, that she had those. Okay. Cool. We, as the audience, still don't care about him. If you want to present a villain that has a history with the Doctor, present one that we have seen have a history with the Doctor. Sutek, maybe. This guy could have been Sutek. Sutek maybe could have been this powerful. He could have had a psychic connection to the Doctor. Other than that, the Master, obviously. We saw them literally psychically connect last season. Again, finally. They did the whole contact thing again. I really liked that. I really liked that they brought that back. It's like, if you're going, it would be like if Thanos was just some dude that showed up in Infinity War and hadn't been built up to it all. You know how, like, in a few Marvel movies before Infinity War, like, Thanos would be lurking in the shadows and people would say his name and they'd go, Thanos. And it's this big guy that they're building up to. What if Thanos just showed up in Infinity War with absolutely no prior background, absolutely nothing behind him? He just showed up in Infinity War and, like, killed Loki and Heimdall. Like, that would be so fucking stupid. that would have been so stupid. And that's what they're doing here with Flux. They're building up this big villain who's, like, Thanos level, threatens the universe, literally. Like, it even kind of looks like Thanos whenever someone gets taken by the Flux. But he's not been built up to it all. So whatever. The Doctor sends, so they learned that all 7 billion Lupari ships can, like, form into a structure which for some reason will protect them against the Flux. And the Doctor sends Carvanista a design that she says the Lupari should try out. And Carvanista says, what's the point of that? You know what design the Doctor sent? It was a fucking circle. Like a circle that could encapsulate Earth. I'm sorry, but when I was watching this episode, I thought that's what the fucking point was. I thought that's why the Lupari were going to Earth, was to form a bubble around it. Like, why would... Because they obviously couldn't show up in time to extract every human, and Carvanista drops that line about how all the Lupari ships can connect together. So I was like, oh, obviously their plan is to just form a bubble around the Earth, right? That's obviously their plan. What the fuck was their plan? If their plan wasn't to form into a bubble around the Earth, what the fuck was their plan? Were they just gonna collect every human on the ship and then, like, turn into a big wall? Were they gonna turn into a Megazord and, like, fight the Flux? Like, give it a good uppercut? Like, what the hell were they gonna... What were they gonna fucking do? If the plan was not to turn into a circle or a sphere. Also... when the Doctor sends this to Carvanista, she's like, send it to every ship and tell them to do this formation. Why the fuck does every ship in the Lupari fleet listen to Carvanista? Is he, like, the leader of their people, or is he just some guy? Because earlier on, he says he's got to report back to his battalion. So theoretically, he's just some dude in a battalion, if he's reporting back to them. He's not, like, the general of the battalion, right? He doesn't have any authority. So why does everyone decide to listen to him? Anyway, we're nearing the end of the episode now. Dan mentions he's late to see Diane, and Diane just so happens to be lured into a creepy house by Swarm's sister. Why is Diana targeted? What the hell is happening? I don't know. Maybe they'll talk about it in the future episodes. Maybe they'll just fucking forget about it. Could go either way. Carvanista, for some reason, cares about the Doctor now, so he's like, you better get on inside the sphere. But they don't. They get trapped on the outside of the sphere. So Dan, Yaz, and the Doctor are all trapped on the other end of the sphere while we get a compilation of all the currently pointless setups for future episodes in one scene. Yay! There's Doctor Who, Series 13 so far. Top 10 things you didn't notice about Doctor Who, Series 13, Episode 1. The Halloween Apocalypse.